Hello, it's Brad McDowell here. Today I'll be following up from the last video, and what we're going to do is dig deeper into the Windows Strong account for CyberArk SIA. So first we'll look at the objectives for today. We'll dig deeper into the platform and safe settings and what you might consider to implement to protect your SIA Strong accounts. Importantly, we'll remove the SIA Strong account from the domain admins group. We'll then delegate the appropriate permissions for the SIA Strong account into the relevant OUs in Active Directory. I'll then explore some group policy restrictions you might want to consider for the SIA Strong account to prevent misuse of the Strong account. Once we've got all that configured, we'll do some simple tests. We'll connect as a server admin to a target and as a domain admin to a target. The domain admin will fail at this stage in the video, and then we'll allow the SIA Strong account to have the minimum permissions required in order so it can manage the domain admin's Active Directory group. We'll then test the domain admin's use case so we can achieve zero standing privilege for those use cases. And then we'll confirm that the SIA Strong account can still indeed create local admins if you choose to use local ephemeral use cases. And at the end of the video, I'll show you how you may want to consider implementing multiple SIA Strong accounts in the pursuit of least privilege practices. And with that all said, I'll switch over to the lab now and we'll get started. So here we are in the lab. This is the Strong account that we configured in the last video. And this Strong account currently has domain admin rights. We want to secure this further by following the methodology of least privilege. And in a real world environment, you would create more than one Strong account for different tiers of applications or groups of servers maybe. It depends on your environment. But for today's video, I'll keep this relatively straightforward by having only one Strong account. At the end of the video, I'll try and show you what a tiered approach might look like. First, what we'll do is we'll configure some settings in the platform and master policy that you may choose to implement to secure the SIA Strong accounts. First, I'll come over to Administration, then Platform Management. We'll search for Strong, and we'll edit this platform. We'll come over to Automatic Password Management, then Password Reconciliation. So first, I'll enable this setting so that if the password becomes unsynchronized, CyberArk will automatically reconcile the account. In a previous video, I set up the reconcile account in this environment. This is the safe where the reconcile account is located. And this is the name of the reconcile account in this environment. I'll hit apply. Another good practice is to come over to UI and workflows, expand out the connection components, and you'll possibly have a PSM-RDP here. Good idea is to disable this, so a connection is not possible to be made from the CyberArk platform. And we'll hit apply and OK. We'll go back to the accounts view. I'll search for the SIA account. And if we go to the details tab, we can now see the reconcile account is automatically linked. I'll go back to the overview tab and we'll reconcile this account. While we wait for the system to reconcile this account, I'll come over to policies here and I'll open the master policy in a new tab. And we'll select dual control here and we'll add an exception. And if I scroll down, here's the WinDom SIA Strong account and we'll activate dual control. This means if a user needs to view the password or use this account, they need to go through the dual control process. We'll finish that. What we could also do is come down to password management and add an exception for the password rotation for the Strong account. So we'll select the SIA Strong account platform. I'll change this password every 7 days, for instance. And we'll come over to the require password verification setting. We'll add an exception. We'll select our Strong account platform and we'll set this to 3 days, for instance. The end result here means that the Strong account is rotated every 7 days and verified every 3 days. If you've enabled dual control, it's important to check the permissions of the SIA access permissions. I'll show you what I mean by this. We'll come over to safes. We'll search for strong. We'll click into this safe, go to members here, and the DPA RDP Privileged Cloud Secrets access. If we manage this permission, as I showed you in the last video, it's a good idea to ensure that you've got access safe without confirmation. This means the SIA service is able to retrieve this password when dual control is enabled. I'll close this tab now and we'll refresh this screen. And we can see that the password was reconciled. I'll now switch to the domain controller and I'll open up Active Directory, and here's the strong account in Active Directory. Let's go to the properties of this and we'll go to the member of tab here, and we'll remove this from the domain admins group. We'll apply that. And if we go to the security tab here and go to the advanced tab, because this was in the domain admins group, the admin SD holder template has taken control of the permissions of this account. So what we'll do is we will enable inheritance on this account and click OK and OK again. So what we have now is just a regular account that is member of domain users. So I'll go back to the properties of this strong account. And the first thing I'll do is come to the account tab, and there's a setting down here I'd like to enable, which is this one here. Account is sensitive and cannot be delegated. We'll apply that. We'll come back to the member of tab. So as I just said, this account is only a member of domain users, but it does need the ability to be a local administrator on all the target servers it connects to, so that it can clean up the user profile at the conclusion of the session. It does this by using WinRM when it makes its connection. So I've got a group in Active Directory that is a member of local administrators on all the endpoints, and it's this one here. We'll apply that. So this means the strong account will be a local administrator on our servers in the environment. So what we need to do next is allow this strong account to have the capability of creating Active Directory users, and those Active Directory users it creates, it needs to be able to add them to the appropriate Active Directory groups. So I've created a structure over here under this OU here. I've got a use case for domain admins, file server admins, and database server admins. So we'll come back to this OU here and we'll delegate control. We'll select next. We'll select add and find our SIA strong account. Here it is here. We'll select next. And the permissions required for the strong account are create, delete, and manage user accounts, and modify the membership of a group. We'll select next and finish. Next, I'll switch over to group policy, and I've configured this SIA strong account policy that's applied to all computers in this Active Directory. And if we go to the settings of this policy, I'll select show all, and down the bottom here, we've configured the strong account so it's denied log on as a batch job, log on as a service, log on locally, and log on through terminal services. So this would help prevent misuse of the account. And I'll also share with you how I've defined the local administrators on servers. So if I go to the servers OU here, here's the server local administrators group policy. I'll show everything here. And if I scroll to the bottom, we're defining these two Active Directory groups along with these two local users that are allowed to be local admins. I'll now switch back to the workstation and I'll open up SIA in a new tab. And here's the policy we configured last time. If I edit this policy is declaring that we're allowed to log on to these two servers, and we're going to be a member of this Active Directory group, and these two members are allowed to do this. So I'll switch over to John's account here, and we'll select connect for WinServer 1 as John. So we're logged in as John. I'll open up PowerShell and I'll type in gp result/r, and we can see John here is a member of the server admins group, which in turn gives John permission to the server admins group in Active Directory. Before I log off this session, I'll just point out that this account here is inside this OU. I'll just switch to the domain controller to make this clearer. If I go into the server admins OU here on the domain controller and we select refresh, we can see John's account here. It gives us some information when it was created. And to add a little extra information, the reason why the user gets created in this OU is because this OU is the most common to this Active Directory group. If you're adding more than one Active Directory group for a zero standing privilege access policy, then the Active Directory user may get created somewhere else in Active Directory. But for now, I'll switch back to the live session of John and I'll log off John's session. And I'll switch back to the administrator session and we'll update this policy. So instead of using this group here, I'll remove that and we'll add in the domain admins group. So I have a group in Active Directory that is a member of domain admins. And I've done this for the same reason of making sure that the zero standing privilege user gets created in that same OU. So I'll just select that and I'll click update and save. So I'm expecting this to fail. I'll switch back to John's session and we'll try and connect to the same server now. And there we got a provisioning error. And you can find the session ID here, but I'll click close and I'll switch back to the administrator session and I'll come down here to session diagnostics. We can see the failed session here and it had an issue provisioning the user. I'll explain why this failed. I'll switch back to the domain controller, refresh this here because that was a session from earlier, just to prove that that other session was cleaned up. I'll switch over to the domain admins OU and I'll go to the properties of this group here I've created. Just so you're aware, this is a member of the domain admins. When a user or a group is a member of domain admins, it will no longer have inheritance for the security permissions of the OU it's in. So if I come to the advanced button here, we can see this enable inheritance button is available. That means something has taken over the permissions of this object. So we can temporarily fix this problem. I'll just demonstrate that now by enabling inheritance and clicking OK and OK. That will only fix it for a period of time. After 1 hour, the admin SD holder template will go and reapply the permissions for this Active Directory object. So if I switch back to John's session and connect, we can see the session is established. I'll open up PowerShell again. I'll type in gp result/r. We can see that this user is in the ZSP domain admins OU, and it's a member of this group here, which in turn has given it domain admin access. I'll log off the session. And I'll switch back to the domain controller. And as I mentioned earlier, the fix that I did will be only temporary. And the reason for that is because this group is a member of domain admins, the admin SD holder template will come along and reapply the permissions. So if I go back to the properties of this and come to the security tab and advanced here again, just so happens I can already see the enable inheritance button available again, which means those permissions have reverted back. So we'll just cancel out of there and cancel again. So a method on how we can fix this if you have a requirement to use zero standing privilege for domain admin use cases. I have a script I prepared earlier, which is similar to what I've done in the reconcile account video I've done a little while ago. I'll just open that up now. And here's a sample script on how you could modify the admin SD holder template so that the strong account has the right permissions to the member objects who get this admin SD holder template. So I'll just select all of this and run it. And we open ADSI edit.msc and go to the system container here and admin SD holder. We'll go to the properties and security tab. We'll now see the CyberArk SIA strong account here, along with the reconcile accounts that we created in a previous video. Note that these permissions here are different to the reconcile. The reconcile account have permissions to reset passwords, whereas the strong account has the ability to add members to the objects. Anyway, I'll cancel out of there, close this. And if we come back to Active Directory here, I'll refresh. I'd say if I go to the properties now, it won't be there. I come to the security tab and we don't see the CyberArk SIA account permission here. So I'll cancel out of here and I'll come back when I see the permission applied. And some time has passed. Let's have a look at the group here and go to the security tab, and we can see that SIA strong account has some capabilities in here. It's an advanced permission, but I won't go through the details of that right now, but I know that admin SD holder template has applied. I'll now switch back to the session for John and we'll connect to the same server. I'll open PowerShell as admin and I'll run GP result /r. And we can see that we're part of the group ZSP domain admin, which in turn gives us the domain admin rights for this zero standing privilege session. I'll log off. And if I switch back to the domain controller and refresh, I can see the John user here. If I go into this, we can see the John user is part of the domain admins. I'll cancel this, and if I refresh, this user should disappear because the session has finished. I'll switch back to the workstation and switch to the admin session. I'll go back to the recurring access policy and we'll just test to ensure the strong account has the capability of doing a local ephemeral session. So I'll just change this policy here. We'll just get rid of that and change it to local ephemeral user of administrators. We'll update this. We'll switch back to John's session and we'll connect. So as we can see, we're logged in as John. If I open up computer management and go to local users and groups and open up administrators, we see this local user of John here. That's a local administrator. I'll log off this session. And if I switch back to the admin session and we'll head down to session diagnostics here, and we'll click on the latest session. And if we scroll down, we can see that the strong account is able to successfully deprovision the user profile. So we've got the appropriate permissions set there as well. I've now switched back to the domain controller and I've created some additional strong accounts offline. The reason why I've done this is to simulate a more of a tiered approach in the pursuit of achieving least privilege with the strong accounts. So as we can see here, I've created a strong account for domain admins, database servers, the file servers, and just general server admins. Every environment's different. This is just simulating what it might look like. And each of the strong accounts will have the relevant permissions for the relevant OUs over here. So the reason why we put these groups into the OUs is only that strong account can add members to the database server admin group and so on for the other OUs here. So that's what I've done on the AD side. I'll switch back to the workstation, and here in Privilege Cloud, I've onboarded those accounts accordingly and rotated the password. They're in the same platform and safe. And if we switch over to SIA, we can see the additional strong accounts here, along with the original one I created earlier in the video. And so for example, here I've onboarded the strong account for the database admin use case. If I edit this strong account, the same settings are applied, such as the safe, except for the account name, and all the settings down here are the same as the other strong accounts. But where it differs, if we go back to this page here and we manage the target set items, this strong account will only be applied if you're trying to target the SQL server in this example. And offline, I've also created a recurring access policy. I'll just show you that now. And here we have the SQL admin's recurring access policy. I'll just edit this. So in this policy, we're defining if you're logging on to the SQL server, you're going to be added to this group here of database server admins. And so the end result here, if a user is trying to log on to SQL Server 1, for this example, the strong account I just showed you would be able to create a user where this Active Directory group is located, and it would be able to attach that user or make that user a member of this Active Directory group. And that's the minimum privileges that strong account is required, and therefore it is unable to do anything else in Active Directory. And I'll end the video here. We've covered a lot of topics today on how you could secure your SIA strong account and only have the appropriate permissions required for its uses. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.